Okay. It's so weird starting these. Hello, my name is Grace. Welcome back to my channel. I talk about books sometimes, but somehow this is another video about not talking about books. Sorry. So I just wanted to check in real quick because, like, of course my last video was like, I was so busy that I didn't make videos for a few months, so here's a video stating I'll be back to making videos soon. And then I think it's been like another month because coincidentally so much happened before I had to go on my trip to Japan with my mom, and then I came back and then I'm busy again because no one does any work while I'm away at my job. It's the curse of being so capable. No one measures up to you. I don't even think what I do is that hard at work, but that's a very long tangent for another thing. Somehow we are already at the halfway point of 2025 and I already want it to be over because, of course, I think we all kind of feel that every time we wake up there is something new going on and we just try and get by through the day as normally as we can. I watched a video on Instagram about this called hypernormalization by this a wonderful Instagram creator named Nikita that I absolutely adore. But again, that's another tangent for another day. I'm trying to stick to this being a booktube channel, but it's become increasingly hard with how my life is progressing right now. There's still this giant pile of books behind me. I've barely organized my manga because then, of course, I found another box that I forgot and there's more manga in there. Blah. Yeah, so you see why I'm so busy. I'm an only child. Okay. This is about books. So normally July is around the midpoint of the year, and this is when people do like their mid-year freakouts or whatever it's called, mid-year check-in. This is a mid-year check-in for me as well in the books I've been reading or trying to read, but I don't really want to do that thing where like I follow the tags because I feel like with the way that I've been reading for the first half of 2025 hasn't been going as like well as I'd hoped, particularly because this year has just been unique in the worst ways possible. And I guess just me in particular and my relationship, my interpretation of how the Western, or particularly the American publishing industry and like its releases have been going on right now. I haven't really felt very excited for a number of them. My phone. I haven't really, I said this before also in my beginning of the year video where like nothing has really excited me, especially now that we are at the halfway point of the year. My number one anticipated release, Dark Rise 3, has not been announced yet, so I have no hope for it coming out this year. I hope next year. I'm praying. But like the things that I have that I want to look forward to haven't gotten any confirmations yet. And so I guess this is just like a bit of a waiting period year for me. I do have a couple of books that of course I am interested in checking out, and I did end up pre-ordering some stuff, mostly Dame novels. Yeah, the thing is that only really Dame novels are what keeping me going. And so that's what I wanted to talk about for the beginning half of this year. How I feel very much that like how I've been reading this year is really going to inform perhaps the second half of this year for me. Maybe until like, you know, some books, the books that I pre-ordered, until the books that I pre-ordered actually eventually come to me, particularly in the fall. So, but this summer has been brutal, not just in terms of weather, although that's certainly the case, but also in terms of like, you know, I'm away for 2 weeks in Japan, trying not to read the news. We were kind of briefly in a war with Iran, and then we have that big bill that somehow just passed by the skin of its teeth. Look, you shouldn't pass laws by the skin of your teeth. You pass driving tests by the skin of your teeth, because that's what happened with me. But god damn it, we should not have passed this fucking bill. That's besides the point. I'm trying to make this a booktube channel, goddammit, it's really hard. So basically the first half of my reading journey in 2025 has been like I don't have the exact statistics, but it's like 90% manga. Most of it has been requesting manga from my local library and just reading it because, as you can see, like even though I really tried to curb the amount of manga that I personally buy, even still, it's still a lot. So like I really try not to buy manga unless it is really resonating with me, that I want to be able to keep it and reread it no matter how many times. Even still, there are some series that I'm like, hey, I really want to know what's going on, but I don't think I have the commitment to buy every volume. That's where my library comes in, thankfully. And so I've been catching up on a lot of stuff from my library, particularly mostly just like various series that again I bought a volume for, but then it's like, no, I can't commit to buying this. So particularly Laid Back Camp by Afro. This is a manga that I absolutely love as an anime because I feel like it's very well elevated by its soundtrack and its color and background design in particular. Basically, Laid Back Camp is cute girls doing camping anime, but it's so cozy and so like healing in a way. It comforted me a lot during the pandemic, during lockdown, because again, it's basically the show is cute girls going camping, being in the outdoors, and like making good food and chilling. I particularly like the anime a lot more, but I wanted to read the original source material, so I read the manga. But I felt that I guess I couldn't, coming from the anime first, I couldn't quite connect with the characters as much as I wanted to, because the medium of manga does not lend well to audio and voice acting. So, but even still, I wanted to kind of catch up on the story. There's like a very light story, you know, just mostly regarding friendships, never really any major conflicts. The most conflicted they get is like, hey, we didn't prepare well for this camping trip in the winter. Don't worry, there are people to help us out. They get worried, but there's never really anything that's like, you know, festering and angry. Nothing overly dramatic like that, which is great. So if you're looking for something like very low stakes like that, I highly recommend the anime. Definitely recommend the manga as well if you're more a manga reader. Because I didn't connect well with the manga as much, I couldn't commit to buying it, so I was catching up on that in the library. I was catching up on what else? Just like various like action shonen mangas that are still very much in the early stages, so that's why I was like, hey, I am really interested in this. Particularly Goku Rakugai and Gachi Akuta. Those are the top two. Like, I love how both of them are like, according to me, like seemingly nonsense Japanese words that both start with G and have like Goku Rakugai, Gachi Akuta. Yeah, they both have 5 syllables. It's so funny. But Goku Rakugai, most of it's just for the character design. I think the story is a bit shonen typical, I hate to say, because you have like this like miscellaneous jobs agency that's secretly a demon hunter organization, and like one of the guys is like this kid that's like super energetic and eats a whole lot, and also, wow, just so happens to be half demon. But Miss Tao is so hot. She is the one that's keeping me going, especially since in the first early volume she has like a very mysterious past, so I'm very interested in her. I would move in with her in a heartbeat if I met her in real life. And yeah, I guess I'm interested in the other guy too. I forgot his name. What was his name? Alma, I think. I heard that it hasn't been going well so far, but I'm open to it. I'll just wait for the volumes to release. Yeah, so that's Goku Rakugai. Gachi Akuta has an anime announced. I think it's gonna be on Crunchyroll soon. That's really exciting. I wasn't like, okay, so like speaking briefly on like anime adaptations, I feel like as well, anime wise, there hasn't really been anything that's like really wow catching my interest these seasons so far. I've been mostly watching Apothecary Diaries because I finally have a Crunchyroll subscription again, so I've been catching up on that in anime form as well as in manga form because I just really love the characters of Mamo and Shinshi. But speaking on Gachi Akuta, I also enjoyed that. I also enjoyed the story a whole lot more so than Goku Rakugai. It's really hard to compare though, because like the intensity of the art style in particular, the art style lends so well to its emotions because it's very inky black, stark and emboldened art style that lends really well to its themes of like, you know, what does it mean when you're discarded by society, and then what are you going to do in terms of like reaching back up to the upper echelons or even the high, like, because again, oh my god, I forgot his name again. Oh, and all these anime boys are like mixing up in my brain, but basically we follow this young boy and he lives in like the better part of society, like up in the sphere, but he's still like the lower end of he's still like the lowest bottom rung of the highest end. So he's a scrappy kid, a trash trawler, but he finds the treasures in the trash and like fixes them up and gives them new life because he himself was discarded by his father, who was executed as a murderer, and like still holds the scars of his abuse. But he's adopted by a kind older gentleman until he is framed for his foster father's murder, which is why he is cast out from the sphere and into the larger underworld below where all the world's trash is discarded, and there's toxic fumes and there's like giant like sentient trash monsters, but he is saved by, I think they're called the sweepers. Were they called the sweepers or the cleaners? Anyway, he's saved by a group of, again, like scrappy warriors who imbue their beloved objects with power, and that allows them to defeat the trash monsters and carve out a living for them in this trash world. But the main character wants to find a way back up to the sphere where he used to live to try and find the man who killed his foster father. And again, very high intensity, high emotions, lots of action, which I love and is very difficult to do with manga. But I wasn't like wild about like the way that the anime adaptation handled the art style. I was hoping they'd get more artistic with it, but so far, just from the trailer, it seems to be really nice, so I'm looking forward to that cautiously. A couple of highlights as well, just manga real quick. I did catch up finally on Skip and Loafer. That one was really enjoyable. Unfortunately, when I had to give up my Crunchyroll account, it was just like right in the middle of when Skip and Loafer anime was airing. And I had read a little bit of Skip and Loafer beforehand because it was highly recommended at the time. And definitely I still highly recommend it now. Very like country mouse in the big city, and it's set in high school, but instead of like falling for the typical high school tropes that we see, not just I feel like in Western media, but also in some Japanese media where like lots of characters are just propped up by gimmicks and stereotypes. A lot of these characters are super well fleshed out, lots of interesting feelings that they have to navigate, not just within themselves, but also with each other, because this is high school. There's like brushes and like friendships and, you know, miscommunications and misunderstandings and prejudices. Very much I highly recommend it because, you know, you have these girls and also the boys as well, like on the surface seem to be this one type of typical caricature, stereotype, the nerd, the popular girl, the country bumpkin, the popular boy, but really getting down into their depths, you see a lot more of how they came to be, how their personality was formed, how they were informed by how they were raised. And the anime, as far as I remember, I have to catch up on it again but I have been reading the manga very far ahead. The anime style was so pretty, and like I think the opening dance sequence was like viral for a hot minute, so that was really cute. And then the last manga that I wanted to touch upon, Tokyo Babylon, very briefly. My friend finally convinced me to read Tokyo Babylon, a classic manga by like the highly regarded group Clamp. They're the same people behind Tsubasa Chronicles, Cardcaptor Sakura, X-Holic, or I think it's just called Holic. And yeah, Tokyo Babylon. Yeesh, a bit crazy, honestly. I guess the thing is that like when it comes to Clamp works, they're all very interconnected with each other. When you read the whole breadth, the whole scope of their works, ignore that, that's the fucking doorbell. When you read the whole scope of their works, you find out that their works are like interconnected in this underlying multiverse. So the characters of Tokyo Babylon do come up again in one of their other more popular works called X or X 1999. But Clamp, I just wanted to just shout out Clamp and classic manga, is that like Clamp art style is absolutely beautiful, and considering the time in which this was released, it did touch upon like same-sex relationships and same-sex attraction. I guess I just kind of struggle with like the way their characters developed at a certain point, because there is a type of dramatic irony between the two main characters that we the audience are aware of, but the characters aren't, and the way that develops is a little bit like, okay, I guess. And I think that's something I have to discover when I ever get around to reading X or X 1999, because apparently that's been on a hiatus since like 2008 or something. I don't know. Manga, man, it just goes to show we've all been waiting for Nana we'll wait for Nana forever. Along the same vein as manga, I have been catching up on some dame. The same friend who lent me Tokyo Babylon also gave me some dame to catch up on. I have one here. I talked about it in the last video I did, and it's called The Disabled Tyrant's Beloved Pet Fish. This is a wild one. I thought it was okay, but basically the story follows this young man. I have to double check check his name again. I forgot his name. This young man named Li Yu, and he was reading a web novel until he falls asleep at his computer and then wakes up in the universe of said novel as a carp fish. And in his confusion, the mysterious system, which is a trope common in Danmei novels, especially nowadays, the system informs him that he's been given a quest to seduce the tyrant prince. And Li Yu knows that in the version of the novel that he was reading, the main character, Prince Jing, is mute, and because of that, he is not considered suitable to be the next heir to the throne, but through manipulations and a coup, he is able to rise up as a tyrant in the country. But now he is set on course to change the events of the original story in order to prevent Prince Jing from becoming a tyrant. Prince Jing is still mute. I thought that was an interesting touch, that I think this is really the first time we have seen a type of like main character be disabled in this way. As far as I know, his muteness never gets cured. Everyone underestimates Prince Jing because they think he's stupid because of the fact that he can't talk, but he's still very intuitive. He immediately takes a liking to Li Yu, even though he is a carp. But eventually Li Yu is able to obtain abilities to turn human for longer bursts of time, and Prince Jing is like, I think something's up with this fish. It's kind of weird to say it, but basically it's like, you know, isekai anime shenanigans in which like a main character is a fish and he has to communicate with the main character who's a prince, and there's people plotting against him because he's still a prince. I thought it was cute. It leans more towards comedy than I thought it would, obviously because the main character is a fish and he barely becomes more and more human towards the end of the novel, the first volume. I know there's M-prank later on, so I think it's gonna lean more comedic. I thought it was okay. At some point it kind of becomes a little bit like, oh, Li Yu's a fish, he's trying to do some fishy things, he gets something done, okay, he gets an achievement which allows him to do a new ability, and he has to hide the fact that he can turn into a human from the people around him, and then shenanigans ensue, of course. But that was Disabled Tyrant's Beloved Pet Fish. I guess, yeah, I'll continue reading it, but I'm currently halfway through The Ballad of Sword and Wine, and that one I am super interested in. I have heard it described as the Game of Thrones of Danmei because there are a lot more families and factions and political interminglings and like death and coups and so much more dramatic actions in this one versus the other one, which leans a little bit more comedic. Basically, the story follows a young man named Shen Zichuan. Sorry, my voice is going out. It follows a young man named Shen Zichuan, and he's the like lowest rung common birth son of this lord named Shen Wei. But when the country is under attack by the horsemen in the east, Shen Wei like shamefully is retreating and allowing more of the invaders into the country before he self-immolates in disgrace. And then when all of the other sons are dead, it's only Shen Zichuan left to take the blame for his entire family, even though he like was barely acknowledged as a son and was taken in by a different family ever since he was young. But he is the center of all the blame and all the shame that his father and brothers left him, even though it was his like beloved older brother who saved him from certain death. So you have this traumatized teenager, and you also have this other young man named Xiao Chiya. God, wait, how do you pronounce that? Xiao Chiya? Xiao Chiya? I have to ask. I have to look it up later. And then you have this other young man who has a grudge against him due to the actions of his father, and that his own brother and father were able to fight back against the horsemen that his father let in. So there's like grudges there, sins of the father's shenanigans going on, but they see in each other this like similarity that they can't get over. And after Shen Zichuan is locked up in prison for 5 years, and as well as Xiao Chiya also becoming entangled in the political web of the capital city in which the emperor is growing old, he still doesn't have a direct heir, so the next crown prince is within his own family, but the empress is against this and is scheming her own way into the throne. So poor Xiao Chiya is stuck in the middle of this as well. And finally, when Shen Zichuan is appealed for a of release. They are reunited 5 years later. There are some things that Shen Zhichuan himself is hiding behind his beautiful exterior that Xiao Chiya can't look away from. So I'm only halfway through this so far. I'm really enjoying it, and so I find myself likely to continue the series in the future. I was thinking of doing a part 2 of my guide to Dame video soon, so we'll look into that at some point. I haven't read a lot of books, but I might as well talk about them because this is a book. I might as well talk about them since this is a booktube channel. So basically I managed to read like 7 books so far, but honestly none of them really like stood out to me. More like these were all just really solid reads. I did read that book like That Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Demon, or whichever one that was called, just to see what was up because it has a freaking light novel last name title. As the title goes, there's this young woman, she saves a demon while drunk, and then turns out the demon, not all demons are bad, they're just under the control of this witch. So she goes on a journey with the demon to save demonkind from like the mind spell that they've been put under. I thought it was okay. Maybe I'll read the sequel as well, but basically like, you know, fantasy tropes, sexy romantasy tropes, lots of comedic jab and banter that I thought was fine. It was honestly just a solid, funny book. And then the next one that I read, I'm going through this real fast because my throat's getting parched. I finally read a book that was on one of my anticipated reads list called Voyage of the Damned by Frances White. I also thought this was okay. I guess it also read a little anime-ish to me at some point. I don't know. I feel like a lot of like Western, I don't even like, okay, so here's the thing, I'm going on a tangent, is that like, I feel like, I don't know if it's true, because I feel like a lot of these maybe are originated from Western fantasy tropes, but I think like these are just like the tropes that just so happen to be shared with a lot of stories. Is that like, of course there's like the one who's the underdog and who's a little bit of a prankster, like, and then he's surrounded by people more capable than him, so he's like insecure but also like wants to defend himself by covering up his insecurities with humor. That's basically what it was with this book. So I mentioned it before, again in a previous anticipated reads video. I think it was 2014. I think this was one of the books that was hit by Blast from the Past by Kate Corain's campaign to discredit her fellow authors. But basically the premise is that like there's this magical country and it's divided into 12 provinces or 10 provinces or something like that, and they all of the heirs of every province has a magical power that's passed down to them. But God, I forgot his name. It's just a video for getting names with me. But the lowest ranked province the main character is the heir of the lowest ranked province, and turns out that his father cheated all the time and that the power that was supposed to be passed on to the firstborn heir is not manifesting within him. So his father was like, hey, I slept around a lot, I'm such a slut, and I guess maybe there's some other like, you know, one of my turns out I have like a mysterious love child running around, so that's probably why you didn't get the power. Sorry kid, but you are still the heir, the legitimate heir, and we still need to like make things look good for us because we are the lowest ranked province. So yeah, you go on this trip, this like around the country 10-day trip with like the rest of the heirs of all the provinces, like, you know, to forge connections and make us look good, please, and, you know, complete the tradition and don't fuck up. But the poor heir is like, fuck this noise. Also, I'm super insecure because I don't have a power, and my best friend, who we were both like low ranked provinces, we were like, you know, together as a team, but I don't know, they found fucking oil or something. I think they found like, you know, special resources in his best friend's province, so he was elevated, but well, he was left behind. However, this is like a flying ship, no contact in or out, and then one of them dies. Spaghetti-o. So basically like locked room murder mystery with like 12 magical heirs, or was it 10 or 12? A bunch of magical heirs from these countries, from a bunch of magical heirs from all these provinces that have beef with each other. Not very healthy. And I won't spoil the mystery or how the mystery is solved. I guess I get it. I guess I get it, but I guess like one thing that I didn't like, which I probably I did kind of pick up on, like but okay, it was a very magical twist. Like, it was a twist that was explained away by magic. And then when it was revealed, it was a little bit like, okay, I have to do a lot of brain work now to like reconcile this twist with everything that I've been learning up until this point, but not in like a, oh wow, it was this whole all along kind of way. It was more like, wow, it was this all along? I mean, I guess there were like little tidbits leading up to the twist, but even still, like the crux of the twist, like how, like the reason how the twist could happen all along was a little bit like, okay, I don't know, because it's like magic and stuff, so okay. I don't know, magical murder mysteries is always kind of weird, because then like you know that I think it was a Freddie Wong video a long time ago. I think like it was him and it was Key and Peele, and it and it was like a standoff in which like all three of them were pointing guns at each other. Oh, there's like all these reveals happening all at once, and then it ends in this like really weird way, and then in the end the two cops are like finding the aftermath, and it was like, this is what happens when you live in Wizard City, because one of them is a blueberry pie. I don't remember.
Just another wild night in Wizard City.
Anyway, I think it's really hard to do magical murder mysteries, because it's just like, yeah, I had this magical power out of my ass this whole time. And I'm like, okay, I'd rather get stabbed 12 times. Okay, speaking very briefly before my battery runs out and I have to change it, I finally read Children of Blood and Bone by Tomi Adeyemi. I enjoyed that a lot. Very gruesome read. I did meet Tomi Adeyemi, and she talked about how they are filming the film adaptation really soon, which is really exciting. And so I do have to get the next book soon, because I'm definitely looking forward to it. And the third book, which is the event that I went to meet her for, because it's one of those things where it's like, oh, I'm totally gonna read this book, and then I hold on to it for like 5 years. But now I finally read it, so I am hoping to like catch up and read the entire trilogy, hopefully before the film adaptation comes out. On a whim, I read this book that I also kept with me for like 10 years called Air Awakens by Elise Kova. I think it was 10 years, maybe a little bit less than 10 years, but this was released in 2015. I don't know where ACOTAR is in relation to this, but it's like maybe I was reading this and I wanted to stop at some point, even though I enjoyed the first half, because I think this was like the seeds of romantasy. The seeds of romantasy have been planted a long time ago, and now we are reaping what we've sowed. So basically, Air Awakens, and no joke, Air Awakens is to me like ACOTAR meets Last Airbender. So basically, as far as I can remember it, I forgot that girl's name too. Okay, equal opportunity name forgetting. Basically how this story goes is that there's this young girl, and she's a librarian apprentice in this country that tolerates sorcerers but still kind of side-eyes them, but she's also one of them, like, oh my god, sorcerers, what? But then one night when a prince is seriously injured by this mysterious poison, her research is what leads them to discover a cure, and somehow through like her notes, like her innate magical powers like leaks into the ink of the notes, and she is discovered to be a sorcerer, particularly an air sorcerer, and an air sorcerer hasn't been seen for 1,000 years, so she's super rare, and they really want her to join the wizard school department. They really want her to join the wizard department, but she's like, I don't know. What? And then turns out the prince she saved wasn't like the hot prince that she like kind of had a thing for, but it was like the wizard prince, who's like a bad boy brooder. A brooding bad boy. I think he like pushes her off out a window at some point to awaken those air abilities. Yeah, it's like, it's what the romance girlies have been wanting since 2015. He has a tragic backstory. She kind of comes around more to being a sorcerer. I don't know. I only remember like vaguely the ending where somehow their lives are intertwined now, so they can't, like, if one of them dies then the other will die. And there was like an attack on the country, and I think she was blamed for it at some point. Whatever. I thought it was okay. I did really enjoy the first half though, but then it kind of just like somehow it like fell into romanticy tropes despite having been before the romanticy trend. So again, like, these are the seeds of romanticy that I think like current romanticy reads are building themselves off of, not just ACOTAR. I don't remember where ACOTAR is in relation to this, but even still, like, beforehand, like, you are like the first one of this in this scene in 1,100 years, and then like the brooding bad boy prince who has magic fire powers. So I don't think I'll be reading the rest of the series because I just can't get over romantasy tropes unless maybe they're examined or subverted in an interesting way. But it was good for what it's worth. It was pretty good. And then speak very briefly the last couple of books that I read. So I think I've mentioned this before. I definitely mentioned this but I do really enjoy the manga series called The Other World's Books Depend on the Bean Counter. It's an isekai manga in which a salaryman named Seiichiro is whisked away into another world after he tries to help a high school girl who's also being sucked away into the portal. Both of them get sucked into this like medieval fantasy land. The high school girl named Yua, she is like the chosen holy maiden, summoned to save them from like the demon miasma that's like spreading into the country. And then, oh, you're also here as well? Sorry, you got swept into the summoning ritual. We'll give you everything you need. So sorry about that. What do you want? Is there anything you want? And he is a Japanese salaryman in his 30s and he's known nothing but being like a black company wage slave. So he's like, I want a job. So he ends up in the accounting department of the royal castle and he quickly whips everybody into shape because like the accounting department is just saying yes to everybody who asks them for money. And he's like, you are going to go bankrupt in a matter of years. We can't keep doing this. And he whips them up into shape, meticulously writing like expense reports. And the captain of the magical royal guard named Aresh is like suspicious of him and he's like, you basically got a free ride to do whatever you want because we accidentally summoned you and you want to work. And then Seiichiro's like, honestly dude, I don't know how to live except it's for this. But Aresh comes to his rescue when Seiichiro accidentally overdoses on like magical energy potions, and in their emergency coupling because magic reason they develop a closer relationship in which Aresh like basically forces Seiichiro to take care of himself, and Seiichiro gradually learns to take care of himself because in return Aresh takes care of him and he appreciates Aresh, and then gradually develops feelings for him. I read the manga first originally, but then they picked up the light novels, and the light novels turns out they ended in like 4 volumes and then that's it. The manga adaptation is still ongoing. There has been an announcement of an anime. I don't remember when coming out, but for a while I wasn't buying manga. I wasn't really keeping up with manga, so at some point gradually all the volumes had been released. I caught up with the light novels because they were all out by that point and I do really enjoy the story. I hate to say this. I hope that the manga and the anime take a different direction than how the light novel ended, because basically like I understand like the point of every arc and it does feel like, okay, the plot wise this is how the story should go in order to not just challenge Seiichiro and also world build, but also like develop Seiichiro and Aresh's relationship. And it tackles questions that I think other isekai stories don't really, such as like, we want to go home. Like there are like older isekai stories like Inuyasha tackle that, where like the main character's goal is to go home or at least be able to go home. But modern ones are like edgelord was bullied in his previous life and now he doesn't care about going home at all, like fuck his parents I guess. But Seiichiro and Yua, the high school girl, both want to go home, and so they have to not just reconcile with that, but also Aresh is a nobleman, and it's not as if homosexuality is a problem in this world, but they do come from different worlds. So Aresh is a nobleman and Seiichiro wants to go home, so like what are we gonna do for this relationship, like stuff like that. So like those are the questions that I am interested in them exploring, and that's what they did. But then I don't know, the very ending just felt like a little too neatly wrapped up. I won't spoil it because I kind of hope that the manga will go a different direction, or at least examine it more to make it feel less like a whimper and more like a slow conclusion for the story. And also, I hate to say it, this isn't really a spoiler, I hate to say it though, but Aresh, I feel like Aresh isn't there as much, especially because like there was this whole thing in volume 3 of the light novel where Aresh is away on expedition and that causes like, you know, absence, but absence makes the heart grow fonder. So I was hoping that volume 4 would see Aresh more with Seiichiro trying to figure out their problems together and tackle their relationship together, but Aresh is not there as much as I'd hope for various character and relationship and plot reasons. So that was a little bit disappointing, I hate to say. I still really enjoyed the story and I hope the manga and the anime go a little bit of a different direction. So we'll see, because the manga's still ongoing again. So, and then finally, the last 2 books that I want to talk about. The first one is called The Good Vampire's Guide to Boyfriends, or The Good Boyfriend's Guide to Vampires. This is a arc that I won in a Goodreads giveaway. I believe it comes out in August. And this is a story of a college student who wakes up one day and he is a vampire. He's suffering from severe depression. He's suffering from, unfortunately, attempting to jump off a bridge last semester. So he's dealing with a lot of mental stress. Not very much helped by him being a vampire, but he connects with the library assistant and develops feelings for him until the library assistant discovers that he is a vampire after he ends up stealing blood bags from the blood drive. And this was a pretty cute book, and I do wish it well since this is an arc and it hasn't come out yet, so I won't spoil it too much. But basically I was a little bit like, okay, it was a solid read, but not really what I was hoping to get from reading this, because it's one of those books where it kind of struggles with juggling the main relationship, the main characters, as well as the wider world building and vampire development, as well as like the plot. So it's like they're juggling the relationship, the plot, and like the vampire world building, which was a bit difficult. And also like the main character, was his name Brennan Lee Mulligan? I think his name was Brennan also as well. I understood him as a character, especially when it came to like his mental health and how it affected like his sense of morality, because of course like one of the main struggles I think a lot of vampire stories touch upon is the possibility of killing somebody or hurting somebody, as well as some vampire stories touch upon like thrall and mesmerization. So like what's the blurred line of consent? Like does he, like, of course, because of course the main relationship gets a little sexy where like, you know, are Brennan's vampire powers like influencing his boyfriend to the point where like he has no say. So like that was interesting to touch upon. But then of course there's like the main plot where there's this like older vampire and his long lost love, but that's not really until like the end of the book, and like not really, honestly, not very well established beforehand. So yeah, I don't think it did a great job in like tightening up its focus, because like I feel like you could just make the main relationship be the plot, but if you want to do like a vampire plot, then like it really needs to be balanced a little bit more, because like, you know, like A plot and B plot, you have to like make it well balanced, like 50-50, maybe like 60-40, but this one felt like 80-20, so that's what I struggled with a bit. And just generally, like, I was hoping for more active protagonist stuff, but like stuff seems to just happen around him. But finally, the last book that I wanted to touch upon that I super enjoyed, and it's a really short read, is actually The Electric State by Swedish name. The Electric State, I was waiting for this for a long time, which is why I wasn't able to read it until now. Literally like the last book I read before I had to take my flight to Japan. The Electric State, as some of you may know, was made into a uber expensive Netflix movie a couple of months ago to very disappointing reviews, directed by the Russo brothers. Somehow Mr. Peanut is in it. Mr. Peanut is not in the original book. I have not seen The Electric State, so I can't comment on the movie, but I can say from what I've seen of other reviewers talking about The Electric State is that the original Electric State book is nothing like the movie. I feel it in my core how disappointed fans of the original source material must be when they saw that movie. It is crazy how tonally different, literally night and day, how tonally different these two books are. Maybe I can make like a whole video on that alone, because adaptation is a core focus of what I'm interested in literature and movies. To speak very briefly, is that like basically the basic plot that like both the movie and the book share is that there's this young woman named Michelle, and she is on a journey aided by a robot seemingly controlled by her missing brother, in order to find his real body. That's like the basicest plot that both the movie and the book share. From what I recall of like the Electric State movie is that Michelle, who's played by Millie Bobby Brown, runs into Chris Pratt at some point and he helps her, and I think he's like a veteran of like the robot war. Stanley Tucci's there and he's like a much more active villain, and Gianmarco Esposito is there and he does something, I don't remember, and Ke Huy Quan is there and he does something, and then Anthony Mackie is there and I think he's a robot, and Woody Harrelson is there and I think he's Mr. Peanut, and I don't remember how the ending went. Anyway, that was what I know of the movie. The book, though, is a much more like haunting, cold, rainy type of story in which it's much more subdued, very little action. It's much more an observance through Michelle's eyes of the way, I think it was America in the book as well. I think there's maps. It's much more of a much more mellow and subdued observation through Michelle's eyes of like the landscape of America after this like robotic war, after the introduction of these, I think they're called like Neurocaster, like similar to like what Ready Player One, and I think like what else was there, like, you know, those types of like the tech that you wear over your head to like basically cut off the real world, and how like the pervasive use of that has like rendered like people into just like emaciated zombies, just desperate for a connection to like the fantastical digital world. And like the imagery is just so like, you like, I feel like the imagery is just so well done that you can like hear and like feel everything around it, because it's not just all sharp. Some of it gets like blurred out due to the rain and fogged due to like the weather. So yeah, without even having watched the movie, I knew reading the book that they missed out on so much by not following the tone of the original book. And look, if they wanted to do something like cool, like actiony, Russo brothers, Avengers, Marvel-y, like with the concept of like robot uprising being a metaphor for racism or whatever, yeah, they could have done that, and they could have just not called that the Electric State, because like, I don't know how rights work, but like the rights won't be up again and the fans still won't get anything. I don't know. Other than rights, it's just a completely different mess of a movie, and I absolutely was so taken by the book. So it was a library request, so it took me a while to actually get it. I might buy a copy, I don't know, because I feel like there's just something about it that begets rereading, because it was such a dense, personal type of writing style that like, I feel like if I read it again, then there might be some extra clues that like weren't present in the first read through. So honestly, if you can get your hands on a copy of The Electric State, the original book, I highly recommend it. Beautiful illustrations, like if just for that alone, absolutely wonderful. So far, that's been like the highlight of my 2025, you know, post-apocalyptic America. With robots. Oh my god. And you know, the internet taking over our minds. You know, all good stuff. Okay, so I feel like I went on a lot longer than I initially anticipated, and my battery is running out again, and I can't find my third battery, yada yada yada. But you know, let me know how your 2025 has been so far, even if it's not with books, just in general, just let me know. Just real quick at the tail end here, I hope my battery doesn't run out, is that the second book of To Gaze Upon Wicked Gods series has been delayed, I think. So I don't know how your girlie's gonna eat. No, I'm kidding. I don't get money from this yet. Yeah, all of my anticipated books are just running away from me specifically. But we'll see. Anyway, just let me know anything. Just like comment heart emoji. I don't know. Comment invisible face emoji. I don't know. Stay cool in the summer and kiss your fandom friends goodnight. Hold your loved ones close. Punch a fascist in the face. I don't care. I'll see you all in the next one. Bye. Bye-bye.